how do we start to figure out what is going on in the minds of someone else and what really is their agenda and bias, and what's in it for them? What are some tips?
Well, I mean, it depends on how much time ahead of time and lead time you have. I mean, you can always do, social networking research on the company, mission statements and vision statements of companies, because that's ultimately what that group and organization is working on or working towards. But when it comes on a personal level, it comes down to, I hate that term small talk or chit chat.
Yeah.
It really comes because it makes it seem like it's so small and granular, and it's really not. It's just, I love those open-ended challenges questions. Like, hey, what are some of the challenges you have in your line of work or industry right now? What are some of the challenges you have, maybe even just commuting into New York City? Because when you start asking those open-ended challenges questions, people are going to share with you their thoughts and opinions and ideas about exactly what's important to them in that moment. And what your brain automatically starts doing is it starts aligning what your resources are for them in terms of what is important to them. And so it's just asking those open-ended questions and offering them yourself as a resource for their success and prosperity.
Yeah, it's always that those first 7 or 8 seconds that we start to engage with someone that they start to wonder, what we're all about. One of the things that I say to salespeople and managers is we start off a conversation with, hey, how are you today? And it's such a throwaway statement because it gives such an automatic response of, I'm great, how are you? And neither one of them actually care how the other is doing, and it's probably not really true that they are wonderful and great today. So I'll oftentimes say to them, ask, like you just said, how was your commute in this morning? Or how are you even feeling this morning? Because it just adds a little bit of something different and actually starts to get an actual real response.
I'm smiling right now at that because I just read that article too. It was a good article on the worst thing you can do to start a conversation is ask them how their day is. It's asking, and I call them the challenges questions because you can ask people about what kind of challenges you're facing. You get a pretty straightforward answer of what's important in the right now.
Yeah. And it's amazing the kind of response that you'll get sometimes too. Like I've talked with people and gotten on the phone and asked them those types of questions, and I get a 5 to 10 minute diatribe of how awful their commute was in this morning, or that they are feeling under the weather or something along those lines. And those are important things to know depending on the message that you're trying to give. And if they're in a negative state of mind, you want to know that so that you can work with that.
Well, and here's why too, so it's a great thing to talk about because what you're discovering is content and context, as you had mentioned before we started chatting, of the other individual. Because as soon as you understand content and context, here's the value. Let's go back to ancient tribal man again in social psychology. All we're doing as human beings is exchanging anecdote and story to try to see if the other person accepts me for who I am as part of their tribe. Because when you feel affiliated and connected and valued by others, your dopamine starts flowing in your brain, oxytocin, serotonin, your pleasure centers are firing because you have connection. The only way you discover connection is to discover the content of someone else's context, and you're just finding affiliation. You're finding things that you have in common. And I'll even, I probably worked 22, because I worked counterintelligence my whole career before I retired. And I probably worked with 22 to 25 different nationalities. And, someone always says, how do you build, a commonality with someone from such a different culture? I said, you're not going to build it necessarily on the exact item, but you're going to build it on themes. One of my favorite questions always is, hey, so what was one of your favorite family holidays growing up, and tell me about it? Because it's not going to be the same holiday necessarily, might be, but what it is we both have a favorite family holiday. We have favorite foods, smells, flavors, and so all those things, that's where you find that connection, because that's where you're saying, oh, they accept me for who I am non-judgmentally. The dopamine starts flowing. We start having trust. And when you start having trust, you start having relationships, because one of my fail-safe mottos and beliefs in all things I've done, and it took me so long to discover this, is without relationships, healthy relationships, you can achieve absolutely nothing, because everything comes down to a healthy relationship built on trust, open, honest communication, transparency, and you make yourself an available resource for the prosperity of others with no expectation of reciprocity. Because you throw that expectation of reciprocity in there, or, like you're doing it for you and it's not all about me. And it blows up, because the other person starts sensing manipulation. They start sensing it's about you, and there is no trust. So you got to let go of that sense of reciprocity. Now, granted, when you're given this many gifts and, and reciprocal altruism kicks in, then there will most likely be that. But yes, but you can't judge what's coming back. And it can't also force a timeline either.
Yeah.
So, yes.
It has to be on their timeline, their pace. And the other thing that asking those kinds of questions is it helps you to build empathy. It helps you to understand their perspective and their view of things, learning things like what's their favorite sport or what's their favorite family holiday or, what was their first childhood memory that stuck with them and that they've carried through all kinds of different experiences, helps you to learn and understand more about the person. And I think this is such an important thing for sales professionals at all levels to understand, because you hear the things in my profession like relationship selling is dead, and or people will buy from you if they like you, and there's truths to some of it, and there's also myths behind it.